Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dear Heroic Life. We're so happy you're here with us today, and we'd love to know, where are you tuning in from? Are you in the comfort of your home, on a busy commute, or perhaps traveling the world? Drop a comment below and share your story. Nightfall in Los Angeles often brings a unique energy to the city's streets. Music drifting from trendy clubs, conversations spilling out from high-end restaurants, and bright neon lights reflecting on sidewalks freshly dampened by a light rain. Outside one such upscale eatery, Keanu Reeves stepped onto the sidewalk, having just enjoyed a quiet dinner. The hum of passing cars and the faint buzz of chatter enveloped him. Despite the glamour around him, his focus locked onto a far less glamorous sight. A young girl sitting alone on the curb. She couldn't have been more than 13 years old. Her name, he later learned, was Ashley. Her knees were pulled up to her chest, and her worn backpack leaned against her leg. She held up a small cardboard sign with words scrawled in marker, appealing for help. As couples in tailored suits or elegant dresses brushed by, they avoided even a glance in her direction. Ashley seemed invisible to them, just another face in the throng of those marginalized by the city's relentless pace. But Keanu paused. Something about her posture spoke of more than simple destitution. There was a tired grief in her eyes that he couldn't ignore. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. The overhead street lamp cast a gentle glow across his face, recognizable to many but seemingly unimportant at this moment. "Hey," he greeted in a soft voice, crouching down. "Are you all right?" Ashley startled, then glanced up. When she realized who was speaking, her eyes flickered with surprise. The shock quickly receded, replaced by caution. I'm okay," she mumbled, pressing the cardboard sign closer to her chest. Keanu studied her sign more carefully. "Need money urgently. Please help." The words were simple, but the desperation they conveyed was profound. He sensed there was more to her story than typical circumstances. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Ashley." He offered a small nod. "I'm Keanu. It's cold out here, and you look like you've been sitting for a while. Do you need something to eat?" At first, she said nothing, her slender fingers curling around the strap of her backpack. Slowly, she gave a guarded nod. Keanu's question had disarmed her more effectively than any direct inquiry about her situation. "I haven't eaten all day," she admitted, voice trembling. "Then come on," he said gently, extending a hand. "There's a diner nearby. We can talk there if you'd like." Ashley looked around, as though expecting someone to step out of the shadows and forbid her. But the only watchers were passers-by who cast disapproving or pitying glances before hurrying off. Finally, she slipped her backpack over one shoulder and stood, never letting go of her sign. Keanu ushered her across the street to a 24-hour cafe, its neon sign welcoming them with a cheery flicker. Inside, the warm air and smell of coffee offered an immediate sense of comfort. A few late-night patrons sipped drinks or tapped at laptops. They found a booth in the corner, and a tired-looking waitress came over. She recognized Keanu, but kept her reaction subdued, simply handing them menus. "Order anything you like," he encouraged Ashley. She scanned the menu, eventually settling on hot chocolate and a small plate of fries. Keanu opted for a coffee. Once the waitress departed, he studied Ashley's face again. Slender cheeks smudged with city grime, eyes that occasionally darted about the cafe as though expecting trouble. "So," he began in a gentle tone, "is there someone we can call for you?" She swallowed hard, carefully placing her sign on the table. "No," she whispered. "There isn't." Keanu's brow furrowed. "Family? Friends?" "No one," she repeated, eyes dropping to her lap. Her grip tightened on the backpack strap again, knuckles whitening. He let the silence linger a moment, not wanting to push too hard. "If it's urgent, the money you're asking for, is it for shelter? Food? Something else?" Ashley's lips parted, but she hesitated, unsure if she could trust him. The waitress arrived with the hot chocolate and coffee, offering a brief reprieve from the question. Ashley took a sip, closing her eyes in relief at the warm sweetness. Finally, she set down the mug. I need to save someone, she said, voice quavering. But I can't talk about it. No one believes me anyway. Keanu's heart twinged at her words. You're safe here, he assured. I won't judge. If someone's in trouble, maybe I can help. Ashley blinked away, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. My parents, they're gone, she whispered at last. And the only real thing I have left is Toby. He's a cat. But now Toby needs help, and I can't afford it. Though her statement raised more questions, it gave Keanu a crucial clue. She was homeless, alone, and the someone she wanted to save was, in fact, an animal. He had no idea how dire Toby's condition might be, but he saw the desperation etched into Ashley's features. Whatever was happening, she truly believed Toby was running out of time. Tell me about Toby, he pressed gently. Ashley's lip trembled. He's sick. It's bad. My parents, she paused, exhaling shakily. They were vets, both of them, but a car accident took them away a year ago. He was all I had left, but I had to leave home to keep him safe. And now he's dying. A swirl of empathy and sorrow filled Keanu's chest. He recalled times in his own life when a shred of kindness kept him afloat. This girl was alone, striving to save a beloved creature with no one to back her. Okay, he said firmly, leaning closer. Then let's see what we can do about Toby. You and me, together. She looked up, watery eyes flicking with cautious hope. Really? He nodded, lips set in determination. Really? We'll figure out how to help him, one step at a time. They didn't realize it yet, but in that simple cafe booth, an unbreakable bond had just been formed, two souls intertwined by compassion and a cat's fragile life. Outside, the city's neon glowed on, indifferent to the quiet promise that would change both their lives forever. The warmth of the diner's interior provided a welcome cocoon from the bustling Los Angeles streets. Ashley cradled her mug of hot chocolate while Keanu sipped black coffee, the aroma a comforting presence between them. Silence lingered, weighted by all that still needed to be said. When Ashley had mentioned Toby, the cat she was trying to save, it was clear how deeply her need for help ran. Can you tell me more about Toby's condition? Keanu asked at last, his voice measured and calm, hoping not to startle her. Ashley swallowed, anxiously twisting the sleeves of her sweater. He's been weak for days. I think he ate something that got stuck in his stomach. My mom once told me about obstructions in pets, like pieces of plastic. If it doesn't come out, they can die. A tremor edged her voice, but she forced herself to continue. I had nowhere else to go, no money for a vet. My uncle, he doesn't want him around. He said Toby's just extra trouble. So I left. Her words carried heartbreak that no child her age should endure. She cast a fearful glance at the door, as though her uncle might barge in at any moment. Keanu recognized that sense of living on the run. He'd encountered people over the years forced to escape unkind or dangerous guardians, and it never got any easier to witness. He placed a comforting hand on the table, not quite touching hers. It sounds like Toby needs urgent care. We shouldn't wait. Let me help you. She stared at him, brows knitting in skepticism. Why would you do that? Because, he replied gently, sometimes we're put in a position to help. I've gone through my own trials. I'd like to think we can be there for each other in this world. A tear escaped the corner of her eye. Quickly, she brushed it away, nodding. All right, she murmured, if you're sure. Keanu exhaled in relief, motioning to the waitress for their check. The idea was simple. Get Toby, then head to a vet. With a plan formed, they finished their drinks. Outside, the LA air was cooler. Ashley zipped up her threadbare jacket, expression tinged with a flicker of determination. He's not too far. I hid him in an alley near where I stay. They walked side by side. Her smaller steps quickened to match his longer stride. Keanu paused at a convenience store, grabbing a couple of basic cat supplies, like a blanket and some food, earning a questioning glance from the cashier. We have a cat emergency, he explained with a small, wry smile, though anxiety churned beneath the surface. He realized how urgent Ashley's story sounded. Toby might be close to dying if not treated soon. Down here, Ashley directed, leading him through a side street that branched into a shadowy alley. Faint odors of garbage and stagnant water assaulted them. She gingerly turned a corner, stopping behind a large dumpster. There, under a tattered blanket, lay a small plastic crate. Inside, Toby. The cat was pitifully still, fur dull, eyes half-lidded. "Toby," Ashley whispered, voice cracking. She unlatched the crate door, carefully lifting the thin, trembling cat. Toby let out a weak mewl, pressing his face to her jacket. Keanu's heart twisted. He'd always harbored empathy for animals, but seeing a creature so vulnerable reminded him of how cruel life could be. "We need to get him to a vet right away," he said, gently brushing Toby's head. Even that light touch felt like it might break the cat. Toby was so fragile. Ashley nodded, wiping away tears. "Please help him." Her eyes locked on Keanu, pleading with a faith no child should have to place in a stranger. But he had no intention of letting her down. In the next instant, they hurried back to the main street. Keanu spotted a taxi stand. Flagging one down, they clambered in, Toby cradled carefully against Ashley's chest. The driver eyed them curiously but said nothing. "Nearest 24-hour veterinary clinic, please," Keanu requested firmly. The car sped through city blocks, neon lights dancing across the windows. Ashley softly stroked Toby's forehead, murmuring words of comfort. The cat's breathing was ragged, though he managed a faint purr. Keanu watched them, a quiet bond forming that had nothing to do with money or fame. It was the intangible link of compassion between a child, her cat, and a stranger stepping up to help. Finally, the taxi pulled to a halt before a large, modern clinic, fluorescent lights reflecting off sliding glass doors. They rushed inside, the sterile smell of disinfectant greeting them. A receptionist looked startled to see a well-known actor walk in, but after a moment's pause, she guided them to an exam room. Soon, a veterinarian named Dr. Summers appeared, wearing a lab coat and calm expression. "What's the situation?" Dr. Summers asked, professional yet empathetic. Ashley gulped, tears on the brink. "He might have eaten something. He's weak, can't move much, hasn't eaten in days." Toby let out a weak mew as if in confirmation. Dr. Summers gently lifted Toby, placing him on the exam table. After a brief assessment, listening to Toby's heart, feeling for lumps in his abdomen, he frowned. "We'll need x-rays and maybe an ultrasound. This could be an obstruction, which is serious." Keanu stepped forward. "Whatever needs to be done, do it." He glanced at Ashley, whose eyes swam with worry. He recognized the question behind her eyes. "Can we afford this?" He offered a reassuring nod, letting her know cost wouldn't be an issue. Dr. Summers sighed. "All right, let's start with immediate tests. Please wait in the lobby. We'll move quickly." Exchanging a hopeful look, Keanu and Ashley were ushered out. Toby whisked away through swinging doors. In the waiting area, silent tension stretched. Ashley clasped her hands together, eyes lowered. Keanu placed a gentle arm around her shoulders. The hum of overhead lights and distant beeping of medical equipment framed a moment of uncertainty, a moment in which everything hinged on Toby's survival. No words needed to be said. They both knew the next hour could define everything. If Toby was saved, Ashley's link to her past, and her hope for the future, would remain intact. If not, Keanu dreaded to think how devastating that loss would be. The clinic's waiting room felt like the entire world had shrunk into a few plastic chairs and glossy magazines. Ashley sat trembling, her ankles crossed tightly, as though warding off a cold draft only she could feel. Keanu Reeves remained by her side, arms folded across his chest, eyes glued to the hallway leading to the exam rooms. Minutes seemed to stretch into hours. A soft beep signaled a door opening. Dr. Summers emerged, a grave expression etched onto his face. Immediately, Ashley shot to her feet, her stomach nodding. "How is he?" she asked in a hushed tone. "The x-rays confirm an obstruction," Dr. Summers said solemnly. "Likely a piece of plastic. Toby needs surgery to remove it. The procedure is delicate, especially given how weak he is." Ashley's breath caught. "He's going to be okay, right? If we do the surgery?" "Dr. Summers placed a hand on her shoulder, sympathy radiating from him. "We'll do our best, but there's no absolute guarantee. He's severely malnourished, and that complicates anesthesia and recovery." Keanu stepped forward without hesitation. "Perform the operation. I'll cover any costs." Ashley looked at him, eyes wide with raw gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, tears pricking her eyelids. This was a child who had expected to face life's storms alone. Now, unexpectedly, she'd found a safe harbor in a man known worldwide, yet to her, just a gentle presence with infinite kindness. "Dr. Summers nodded. "We'll prepare right away. It's best if you wait here during the procedure. It could take a couple of hours." As the veterinarian disappeared down the corridor once again, Ashley resumed her seat, head lowered. Keanu could see her shoulders shaking. He rested a hand gently on her back, offering silent reassurance. The hush of the waiting room pressed upon them, only occasionally interrupted by a phone ringing at the front desk or a passing nurse's footsteps. Eventually, the hush was too loud for Ashley. She exhaled, struggling to contain her emotions. "I promised I'd protect him," she began, voice wavering. "He's all that's left of my parents, really. If I lose Toby—" Keanu bent closer, speaking softly. "He's in good hands now, I promise. I've been in tough spots before, unsure if I'd pull through. But you keep fighting." She wiped her nose on her sleeve. Did you ever feel alone? Like me?" Her question hung in the air for a second, loaded with vulnerability. Keanu inhaled, recalling personal memories. "Yes. After I lost people I loved, it felt like a piece of my world vanished. But I learned to hold on to what they gave me. Love, lessons, good memories. That can guide us forward." Ashley nodded, cheeks moist from tears. "I loved hearing about animals from my mom. She was always caring for a stray dog or an injured bird. My dad was the same. They were vets together, perfect team." "That's a beautiful thing," Keanu said gently. "And you've got that caring spirit in you, too. Toby is lucky to have you." Time dragged on, each minute more excruciating than the last. Ashley occasionally paced from the chairs to the window, peering into the empty parking lot as though searching for answers. Keanu stepped out briefly to get them some water, returning to see her hugging her knees in the chair, eyes distant. When the clock showed nearly 2 hours had passed, Dr. Summers returned, removing his surgical mask. Ashley sprang up, searching his face for clues. Keanu stood at her side, heart pounding. "The surgery went well," Dr. Summers said, cracking a weary smile. "We removed the plastic piece. Toby's stable for now, but he'll need close monitoring for the next 24 hours. He's extremely weak." Ashley's relief was instantaneous. She let out a tremulous sob, pressing a hand to her mouth. "Thank you," she breathed, tears of gratitude mingling with exhaustion. Keanu placed a hand on her shoulder, relief surging in him as well. Dr. Summers led them to a small recovery room, where Toby lay connected to an oxygen tube near his tiny nose. The cat's sides rose and fell in shallow breaths. "He's not out of the woods yet," the vet cautioned softly. "But if all goes smoothly, he has a good shot." Ashley inched closer, tears rolling down her cheeks. Toby blinked, giving a feeble purr. She stroked his head gently. "You held on," she whispered. "You're so strong." Keanu observed them quietly, something tight in his chest unwinding. He recognized in her words the unwavering devotion that love can foster, even in a young, frightened child. "Thank you," Ashley said again, turning to him. You saved him." He shook his head with a soft smile. "No, you did. You found help. You never gave up. That's what matters." A veterinary technician approached, politely reminding them Toby needed rest to recover. Dr. Summers recommended they come back in the morning. The thought of leaving Toby was painful to Ashley, but she mustered courage. "Okay," she said, voice thick. "I'll see you tomorrow, buddy." With a final gentle pat, she let the technician lead them out. Outside, dawn loomed. The city still wore its nighttime hush, but faint light tinted the horizon. Ashley's face glowed with cautious hope. "He made it through. I was so scared." You're not alone anymore, Keanu reminded her. We'll figure out the next steps, where Toby can stay, where you can stay. Ashley hesitated. I have no place. My uncle doesn't want me or Toby. I can't go back. Keanu's expression turned serious. Then let me help you find a more permanent solution. Maybe a foster home that loves animals. You can't keep living on the street. She nodded, swallowing a lump in her throat. Thank you. I never thought someone would do all this for us. He pressed a gentle hand to her shoulder, guiding her toward a waiting taxi. It's just the start. Let's get some rest, okay? Tomorrow, we'll make a plan for Toby's recovery and yours. As they rode away, the city awakening around them, a new chapter had quietly begun. One where Ashley wasn't just a lost child on a sidewalk, but a young soul fighting for hope, tethered to an unexpected ally. Toby's life was saved for now, but the deeper question emerged. Could Ashley truly find a stable, loving home? Morning light washed over the city streets as Ashley and Keanu Reeves returned to the clinic, hearts pounding with anticipation. They checked in at the reception desk. A different staff member on duty this time, who led them to Dr. Summers. The veterinarian wore a relieved smile. Good news, he said. Toby's vitals are improving. He's still weak, but I'm optimistic if the next few days go well. A wave of relief passed through Ashley. She exhaled softly. Can I see him? Dr. Summers nodded. He'll need medication and rest. We'll keep him here a bit longer to monitor any complications. Then his gaze flicked to Ashley's worn backpack, noticing her disheveled appearance. You, on the other hand, look like you need rest, too. She almost managed to laugh. I'm okay. As long as Toby's getting better, that's all that matters. Behind them, Keanu stepped forward. I'd like to make arrangements for Toby's continued care, however long it takes. And for Ashley, we need a safer environment. Dr. Summers seemed to sense the complexities swirling around them. There's a shelter for animals and a youth outreach group we work with. They might help find stable living arrangements for Ashley if home isn't an option. Ashley's shoulders tensed at the mention of her uncle. He wouldn't want Toby. I was just a burden anyway, she muttered, wrapping her arms around herself. Keanu placed a reassuring hand on her arm. Don't worry. We'll find a solution that respects what's best for both you and Toby. They headed to the recovery room. There, behind a clear kennel door, Toby lay curled on a soft towel, a bandaged in his foreleg, his eyes blinking drowsily. The kitten gave a faint purr as Ashley knelt down, gently slipping her fingers through the door's small opening. Hey, buddy, she murmured, tears wetting her lashes. You'll be okay. Keanu observed quietly, reminded of how unconditional love could tether us to life's greatest battles. Toby was more than an animal. He was Ashley's link to her lost parents and a symbol of her own survival. A veterinary assistant arrived with a few forms. We need some signatures for Toby's ongoing treatment, plus info about who's financially responsible. Without hesitation, Keanu signed wherever needed. Ashley gazed at him in awe. You're doing so much. I don't know how to repay you. He offered a soft smile. Sometimes, you don't repay kindness in money. You pass it on. Keep Toby safe and do good in the world. That's more than enough. In a corner, Dr. Summers made calls to the youth outreach program, describing a teen girl needing urgent transitional support. He returned with guarded optimism. They can provide temporary housing and help find a long-term guardian or foster situation. But it might take a few days. Ashley's lips thinned in worry. I can't just leave Toby. I want to be near him. Dr. Summers nodded understandingly. You can visit him daily, but for tonight, we can arrange for you to stay in a safe place. Toby's not going anywhere until we're sure he's stable enough. Keanu placed a gentle arm around Ashley's shoulder. This is a start. Let's trust Dr. Summers and see how we can help you both. Reluctantly, she agreed. The day wore on with various calls and paperwork. By afternoon, they had a temporary arrangement, a small, youth-focused housing facility named Bright Path that could accommodate Ashley, at least for a short time. It wasn't luxurious, but it was safe, with staff who specialized in supporting kids in crisis. In the clinic's hallway, Ashley retrieved her backpack from a chair. I guess I'll try it, she said quietly. As long as Toby will be okay here. Keanu crouched to meet her eye level. I promise I'll check on Toby while you're settled in. And tomorrow, you can come see him. Sound fair? She nodded, expression grave but grateful. You'll still be around, right? Not just gone. His tone was gentle. I'm not going anywhere. We're in this together. An employee from Bright Path arrived. A middle-aged woman named Miss Collins, coincidentally sharing Andrew's last name, though no relation, who wore a kind smile and a lanyard. She greeted Ashley with warmth, explaining the facility's rules and the basics: curfew, shared meals, group activities. Ashley looked anxious, but perked up hearing there would be no separation from Toby once the cat was discharged. Before they departed, Ashley stood by Toby's kennel one last time. Get better, Toby, she whispered. I'll see you soon. She brushed a hand gently against the glass. The cat blinked, releasing a tiny purr that seemed to quell some of her fear. Keanu walked her out, Miss Collins leading the way to a modest car. He opened the back door for Ashley, placing her backpack inside. As she settled in, their eyes met, an unspoken vow passing between them. Remember, I'll visit you tomorrow, and we'll check on Toby, he reassured. Ashley's voice wavered with the smallest hope. Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Really? Just as Ms. Collins started the engine, Dr. Summers emerged from the clinic, waving a friendly goodbye. The car pulled away, merging into LA's busy traffic, leaving Keanu standing by the curb. For a moment, he inhaled the city air and closed his eyes. This morning, he'd awakened uncertain if Toby would survive. By evening, Toby's condition was improving, and Ashley had a temporary safe place. Yet he knew this was far from the end. Ashley's future was still precarious. She deserved stability, a loving environment, and Toby needed a stable home once his recovery finished. Keanu felt a tug in his chest, a sense of responsibility not letting him walk away. With a decisive breath, he pulled out his phone, tapping an old contact, a friend involved in philanthropic work for at-risk youths. Maybe there was a family who adored animals, wanting to foster a bright, determined child. Let's see what we can do, he muttered, stepping back inside to check on Toby again, the cat who had unwittingly forged a destiny for Ashley and Keanu that neither had seen coming. A new day glimmered with promise as Keanu Reeves headed once again to Dr. Summers' clinic. The events of the past 48 hours had spun in his mind constantly. Ashley, Toby, the looming question of where they would go next. He had reached out to a few connections, hoping to find a more permanent, supportive environment for both Ashley and her cat. So far, progress was slow but hopeful. As he entered the clinic, staff greeted him warmly, many recalling how he generously covered Toby's emergency surgery. He spotted Dr. Summers at the counter, flipping through patient charts. The vet looked up and greeted him with a smile. Good timing. Toby's doing even better today. He's regained some appetite, purring up a storm. Relief surged through Keanu. That's great news. Is Ashley here? She arrived about an hour ago with Miss Collins from Bright Path. She's in the recovery ward visiting Toby, Dr. Summers explained. Keanu walked down the hallway, passing exam rooms, until he reached Toby's kennel. Ashley was there, kneeling in front of it, her voice soft as she chatted with the cat. Toby lay on a plush towel, eyes more alert than before. His fur was still in place, but his improvement was evident in the gentle flick of his tail. Hey, Keanu said quietly, placing a hand on Ashley's shoulder in greeting. How's our little fighter doing? Ashley's face lit with a shy smile. They say he might be able to leave in a few days if he keeps getting stronger. He's eating, finally. He even tried to bat at the nurse's pin this morning. I'm so happy. Keanu leaned in to offer Toby a gentle scratch behind the ears, the cat responding with a soft purr. It warmed his heart to see Ashley's tension loosen, replaced by a cautious but genuine joy. Behind them, Miss Collins stood by the door, arms folded, a thoughtful expression on her face. She was the staff member from Bright Path assigned to Ashley's case. He's made remarkable progress, she said. We're just hoping we can find a stable environment for them both soon. Ashley's gaze flickered with worry. I can't go back to my uncle's. He never wanted Toby. And I just don't feel safe there. Miss Collins nodded sympathetically. I understand, dear. We'll do everything we can to avoid that. Keanu cleared his throat, recalling the calls he'd made. I've spoken to a contact at an animal welfare nonprofit. They sometimes place cats with fosters, but in this case, we're hoping to keep Ashley and Toby together. My friend mentioned a local family named the Carters. They've fostered teens before and love animals. They might be open to meeting Ashley. Ashley's eyes flicked with hope. Really? But do you think they'd want me? Her voice trembled. I'm not exactly easy, you know? Keanu gave her a reassuring smile. I think you're braver than you realize. If they're ready for a bright, courageous teen who loves animals, they'll be lucky to have you. Ashley nodded, eyes glistening. Miss Collins jotted some notes. We can set up a meeting soon. For now, Toby should remain under the clinic's care a bit longer. Later that afternoon, in Miss Collins drove Ashley back to Bright Path, promising to arrange the meeting with the Carters. Keanu chose to stay behind, assisting Dr. Summers with Toby's feedings and ensuring the cat took his medications. The staff teased him gently about his dedication, half joking that Toby was now a celebrity cat. He didn't mind the banter. Something about this experience had touched him deeply. Over the next few days, Toby's strength returned, and Ashley came daily after her short classes at a local learning center. Each time she arrived, Toby perked up, as if recognizing the footsteps of his favorite person. Ms. Collins finalized the meeting with the Carter family. They turned out to be a couple in their 40s, deeply involved in rescue operations for stray cats and dogs, and known for fostering children who needed stable homes. One evening, after Toby had improved enough to potentially leave, the Carters visited the clinic. Ashley was there, holding Toby gently in her lap. The introductions began with warm smiles and handshakes. The Carters listened to Ashley's story with compassionate expressions, occasionally glancing at Toby purring in her arms. Mrs. Carter, a soft-spoken woman with kind eyes, kneeled to pet Toby. He's gorgeous, and you clearly love him. We have a big yard with cat-friendly enclosures. I'd love to show you. Her husband nodded, turning to Ashley. We'd be honored if you both joined us. If you'd feel comfortable, we provide you with your own room, and Toby can roam safely. We'd love to have more conversation, of course, and see how we get along. Ashley's lips trembled. She stroked Toby's ears, voice unsteady. I can't believe you'd do that. It's all so nice. Are you sure? Mrs. Carter reached out, placing a gentle hand on Ashley's arm. We're quite sure. We believe in second chances. For animals, for humans, everyone deserves a stable, loving environment. Keanu watched from the sidelines, eyes misty with relief. It felt like witnessing the final puzzle piece drop into place. The Carters insisted on an extended trial period, letting Ashley and Toby visit their home for a couple of weekends first. Ms. Collins agreed it was a good plan. 2 weeks passed in a blur of transitions. Toby fully recovered, bounding around with the energy of a young cat, chasing toy mice around the Carters' cozy living room. Meanwhile, Ashley acclimated to living with the Carters, discovering they also had rescue dogs, a big backyard, and a small reading nook overlooking the garden. Through it all, Keanu remained in contact, dropping by to check on her progress and Toby's antics. On the final day of her trial stay, the Carters offered official foster care. Ashley, tears brimming with relief, accepted. Toby meowed in approval, rubbing against her legs. It felt as though 1,000 burdens had lifted off her shoulders. Standing in the Carters' foyer, Keanu extended a warm handshake to Mr. Carter and a heartfelt hug to Mrs. Carter. Ashley stood by Toby, beaming with a glow she'd never shown before. Thank you, Mr. Reeves, she whispered. You changed everything. He smiled, gently brushing aside her thanks. You saved Toby. I just helped a bit. The rest was all your heart and courage. Nodding, she stepped forward, hugging him. I won't forget it. Someday, I want to be a veterinarian like my parents. And Toby will always remind me of how we can fight for what we love. In the gentle hush of that moment, Keanu's heart felt full. He realized that in helping Ashley and Toby, he, too, had gained something. a sense of renewed faith in how a single act of compassion could spark countless ripples of hope. Days turned into weeks, and the story of Ashley and her cat Toby settled into a happy routine at the Carters' home. With every phone call or short visit, Keanu Reeves discovered a new detail. How Toby had made friends with the Carters' rescued beagle, how Ashley helped nurse an injured raccoon back to health in their yard, and how her once guarded face now shone with the unburdened smile of a child who felt safe. The frantic streets of Los Angeles rolled on, and the city's spotlight moved to the next big story. Yet for Ashley, the real transformation was unfolding quietly in a place where cameras didn't intrude. In the Carters' garden, Toby pounced on fluttering leaves, no longer the frail kitten that had once hovered on the brink of death. And Ashley, who once feared she'd never escape the shadows of her uncle's home, now talked about finishing her education, interning at an animal clinic, and carrying on her late parents' legacy. Keanu, for his part, continued to check in, ensuring she had the support she needed. Though the memory of finding her on the sidewalk seemed distant, he knew the bond forged that day would last far beyond Toby's recovery. Kindness, he often said, was never wasted. Helping Ashley had reminded him how a single moment of compassion could realign the course of many lives, including his own. In the end, Ashley and Toby's story wasn't a tale of high-profile celebrity intervention or dramatic headlines. It was a simple testament to the human capacity for empathy. Sometimes, when the rest of the world is too busy or too jaded to stop, one person's willingness to pause and say, "I can help," can rescue not just a life, but restore hope, love, and faith in a brighter tomorrow for a little girl, a fragile kitten, and all of us who pause to see them. If you enjoyed this story, there are many more tales of courage and kindness waiting for you here on Dear Heroic Life. Click on another video to explore more real-life moments where compassion triumphs, hearts transform, and hope finds a way. Feel free to share your own thoughts or uplifting experiences in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.